On this edition of Ourlads Guide to the 2018 NFL Draft, we'll take a look at the Ourlads pre-combine top 32 rankings with position and player analysis, and we'll preview the NFL Combine with what to look out for and why. As Ourlads Guide to the 2018 NFL Draft with Dan Shonka on the Ourlads Football Radio Network starts now. All right, it's Wednesday, February 21st, 2018. I'm Greg DePalma. You're listening to the Ourlads Football Radio Network with Ourlads GM and National Scout Dan Shonka, where it's never too early to think about the NFL Draft. And Dan, the latest newsletter's out in the mail. The Combine is next week. Free agency starts next month. And we're counting the days for the draft. It's a great time of year, ain't it?
Absolutely. That's what all the scouts live for, the Scout Super Bowl, late April, and prior to then you got to get a lot of practice in. So now we put out our first top 32, and which will follow later today with our first mock draft and pre-combine mock draft, I should say. And then we got the mock draft challenge going for all the fans out there. And they're hustling their way to that now, too. So everything's in high gear.
Well, this is just the first of 10 consecutive weeks for the Ourlads Guide to the 2018 Draft podcast. Next week, we begin breaking down the divisions with the AFC West and the NFC West. We have our first mock draft special on March 28th. We'll go through the rankings in early April. Then we'll have our final mock draft before the draft itself. And we wait for the rankings and our mock draft because the Combine. We really want to find out in detail about what's going on at the Combine, as you've said many times before, which is true. I mean, you got to find out how fast these guys are and all the rest. But, you know, we understand also how important it is. The fans love the mock drafts. And I'll be putting one together soon to post it. But you've got one that you're working on right now. When's that going to be available and up on the site?
Yeah, it should be. Hopefully, I wanted to get it up, by mid-afternoon, but it might have to hold out till early this evening. So we'll just see how that goes. But, it's a first, though. If anybody's looking at our top 32 online, every one of those guys made it in the draft with 32 picks, so which is an all-time first for me anyway. So, it's I don't know, maybe we got a few in the right spots,
All right. Well, of course, and I'm sure it'll change once the Combine is done, but hey, that's what it's about. The more the better. It just gives the fans an opportunity to kind of gauge exactly where we stand at this point in time. Before we get into the to those rankings, which we have posted up on the website, I did want to talk about the Combine. And first, I wanted to ask you, for fans that are going to watch on the NFL Network next week, is there something specific that they should be looking out for by position? Like, let's just say with the quarterbacks. Let's start with the quarterbacks. The position that everybody, especially this draft, is going to be really in tune by with all these kids there, all these top potential 10 picks. So what should they be looking out for with the quarterbacks and some of the other positions?
Well, of course, you kind of gradually get into it because they're by group, and then you got, you're starting out with your offensive linemen and stuff like that before you get into the second year picks, like I said. But, I think that what you want to do is just see in the drills and stuff the movement on how athletic the guys are. And obviously, when you get into the skill positions like the wide receivers and the defensive backs, you want to see how fast they are straight ahead, and then look at the back pedal turn and run drills, which we have their times in our guide and everything, that you see how their hips are and how they can turn and open up and sprint and things that you see in a game. Now, all those drills aren't, game type drills.
Sure.
In fact, when I was coaching, all my drills were set up for game type action drills.
Okay.
And that's one thing I have against the Combine is that, Paul Brown is the one that actually, he's the one that he had the 40-yard dash. He used that as a measurement tool for speed on everybody. Well, the NFL has always done that. And when you have records, so you can look back in the years and see how these Hall of Famers, what kind of speed they had, and and all that and stuff, and that's good. But to me, you should have at least one drill every year that nobody knows about until you line them up on a line and say, well, here's what we're doing now.
Yeah,
okay, this
sure.
is the drill.
Yeah.
Why not? Because then you can see really what a athletic guy is, how fast he can pick up the drill. And I don't want to give the guy's name, but I mean, when I went to work out a guy that played in the league for about 10 or 12 years, he's actually coaching the league now. He had a hard time doing the 3-cone drill. You know what I mean? I'm thinking, oh crap, what is this going to be? This guy can't learn how to do a 3-cone drill, and we wanted to play, on Sunday in the NFL. Well, anyway, he didn't have to worry about 3-cone drill. He was a running back too, by the way. But anyway, he ended up figuring out how to do the drill after a while. But that's one thing. Doing something extemporaneously, you throw it out there and say, okay, here, this is the kind of drill we're doing right now. This is the way I want it done. Do it,
Sure.
And then, because C.O. Bricado is the one that kind of invented the 3-cone drill, a scout that he passed away now, but a long time ago, he used to do that, just working out guys to see, how quick they change direction and things like that. Well, then the NFL put it in the combine, but the times from when C.O. was, incorporating it with the at the combine, the times have just dropped dramatically because, they're practicing those things and you're not really getting a real feel of that guy because now because they know what the drills are, they practice them like everything. And then they do it so all they're doing is, they're just repeating what they've been practicing forever.
Yeah.
So, and you don't really get a great feel of a guy, athletically if they do that. Now, if you long jump 11 feet, you vertical 40 inches and all that, you're going to, you probably would have done pretty close to that anyway, without all practice. But you don't go from, long jumping 8 foot to 11 feet, you know what I mean? And things like that. So I like to see something extemporaneous done, just by each position.
Now, I remember last year, Kaiser had some issues during the combine. I forget exactly what specific drills he was having issues with, but I just remember he was just having all sorts of accuracy issues, and he just did not look good that week. His stock went down a little bit, and really it wasn't that much of a surprise when you looked at how inconsistent he was his last year at Notre Dame, and then really how inconsistent he was with the Browns when he was forced onto the field too early. So. Is there a specific quarterback drill that we see out there that we'll see out there next week that you think is pretty important?
Well, what it's you can see what kind of anticipation a quarterback has.
Okay.
You know what I mean on
Sure.
these drills. And the other thing that's tough, Greg, is that all these receivers now. Sometimes the quarterback just gets stuck with, say, 3 or 4 or 5 receivers when they rotate because they film all this stuff. So, it's the same receivers up with the quarterback. And the same thing, the receivers get stuck with a quarterback. If he's not accurate, they're kind of screwed too. Because I remember when Tim Dwight came out of Iowa several years ago, I can't remember who the quarterback was, but I mean, he couldn't even get it close to Tim. He never had a catch during his drills. You know what I mean? And he ended up going to 3rd round and, I played a long time in the league and stuff like that. But so that's the other downside. It works both ways. You got to be able to be accurate to help those receivers out. You want to be accurate to help yourself out. And if you're not, or you throw a heavy ball, for instance, say you throw a real heavy ball like Josh Allen does. Well, I mean, if you don't throw a catchable ball, you're not doing, your receivers any
That's
good.
true.
Okay, great. I got a great big arm and I can be on my knees and I can hit the goalpost from 60 yards away and all that. You know what that means? That means you can be what Jamarcus Russell is and stand on the corner down in New Orleans singing "Take Me Back." You know what I mean?
That's right.
So, that's what that means. So, I think that, I just like to see the anticipation of the quarterbacks when they throw those drills and how they put arc on the ball deep. But again, there's absolutely nothing that takes the place of your game film.
All right, let's talk about the positions at this combine because I wanted to ask you who you're most interested in seeing and why, for whatever reason. Start at the quarterback position, and we haven't really had an opportunity to talk after the Senior Bowl, but obviously I'm interested to see what happens with White and Lauletta because they played so well at the Senior Bowl. What did you think about their performance at the Senior Bowl? Is that something where, okay, yeah, they look good, but that's just one game, or was that, did that impress you the way that they played?
No, I was impressed with the way they played, but I can't say I didn't expect it. Lauletta was a quarterback that had committed to us at the East West game, and then they wanted to bring 8 quarterbacks in to the Senior Bowl, so he ended up going up there and was the most valuable player in the game. So I was very familiar with him, studied him the last couple of years, and liked his skill set. Real smart guy, hardworking. I was happy for him. He was accurate. He threw that ball, between the linebackers into some really tight windows, made some really nice completions. And, of course, Mike White is a guy that I've also liked for the last couple of years because after Dowdy left to Western Kentucky, in cleanup duty, we had White came in there, and, geez, he looked really good. Then when Brome was there, he really had a great year, and then Brome left to go to Purdue, and then he started out a little slower this year because of the new offense.
Yep.
And he had some new receivers and things like that. But then by the end of the year, he's back to his old self again, looking sharp and stuff like that. So, yeah, I was real happy with White, what he did the Senior Bowl. And I think, both those guys helped themselves a lot. And I think that, instead of being maybe 5th, 6th round guys or 6th and 7th round guys, they might end up, being maybe, a late 3rd and 4th round. So,
okay.
I and both those guys deserve it. In fact, to tell you, actually, Lauletta's almost. He's actually a little taller than Garoppolo. Size wise and things. And then, of course, White's like 6'4", so he's a good size guy.
And we talked about this before, and this is why we always, when we do our draft. Well, we've got all these shows to do. I'm sure we're going to accentuate it more after the draft when we do the grades and such, or our analysis and post-analysis. But that is how important it is for players to go to certain teams and certain coaching staffs. And Mike White is the epitome of that, because would Mike White be where he is today if he was still at South Florida?
Right. Well, no, because they would have played Quentin Flowers.
Yeah, well, that's true too. Yeah, that's true too. He would have sat behind Flowers. Yeah, but even when he was there getting an opportunity to play, it was like, who's this guy? I mean, his stats were terrible. He didn't look very good. The offense didn't suit him. So that's the thing. You never know. They're out there. The players are out there. They just got to get a break and land with the right scheme and the right coaching staff, and that's what happened to Mike White when he went to Western Kentucky.
There's horses for courses.
That's
okay?
right. That's right. Is there any other quarterbacks you're interested in taking a look at? The combine.
Like you said, those are probably the top 2 guys. But I would like to see, J.T. Barrett, because he had a good week of practice but didn't look as sharp in the game. But I want to see Luis Perez from Texas A&M Commerce. I think I tell you what, I think he ended up making it. Maybe he didn't. He may not.
I didn't see him I didn't see him in the recent combine list. I don't know if that he got in late. I was kind of surprised that he wasn't in there, because when I saw him in that game, what game was that? That California game or whatever that thing was.
The NFLPA game.
Yeah, he looked like he had some pretty good tools. It looked like somebody that could be a nice developmental player.
Yeah, he does. And then I want to see how Nick Shimonik does, he and Falk, because he had to leave early, from the Senior Bowl. I want to see him because he was having a good week also. And
okay.
Nick Stevens there. And there's 4 East-West quarterbacks there that's going to be at the combine. So, I want to see how those guys perform. And then, hey, Lamar Jackson, let's see what Lamar does,
Sure.
See how sharp he looks, because the guy's made his bones with those legs of his, and now let's see what he can do, because he does have he's got a buggy whip type delivery, but he's showing some improvement this year. But I mean, hey, is he just a bigger Tyrod Taylor? You know.
That's true. Running back position. There's, of course, you know how high I am on Justin Jackson, so we'll see how he goes. But there's a couple other guys I'm interested in seeing as well. The kid Jarvion Franklin from Western Michigan, and the running back from Oregon State, Ryan Nall. What do you think about those potential, middle late round guys?
Yeah, no, I tell you, I'm with you. Franklin is a big running back that in a draft that doesn't have a ton of big running backs. And actually, with the rotation now at running back, you want to have one of those big guys, and
Sure.
he would be a guy you want to look at. Chun from Troy, is another. He's a big guy, but Franklin is I think he rushed for over like 4,500 yards, in his years there at Western Michigan. So I would definitely want to see him, and I think that Jackson, he is one of those really slippery guys from Northwestern now that, hey, just catching the ball, and he's always going forward, so he gets 2 and 3 yards by accident where a lot of other guys are just tackled, So I want to see Sony Michel,
Okay.
see how he and comparing him with Nick Chubb, because
That's true. That should be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, both those guys are probably going to go in the second round. So, I want to see if we can separate them a little bit.
All right, at receiver, DJ Shark had such a big game in the Senior Bowl as well, so I'm interested to see how he follows it up at the Combine. Were you surprised with his performance?
No, I just would like to see the consistency, but there you go. He didn't have a quarterback
while
he was there.
That's true, yeah.
And so, and receivers are looking at each other like, geez, I wish I could get the ball thrown to me, or where I could catch it. So, yeah, he certainly moved up in our ratings and things like that, with that performance, because, the quarterback's there. If they couldn't throw the ball to him, then we'd all be in trouble. So, he caught the ball well, showed his acceleration, and, and that's what he is. I mean, he's a big, athletic, fast receiver that, should run well at the Combine. And then, see Alan Lazard, see what he runs from Iowa State.
Yep.
Because he's a big guy, and it's going to be, he's going to get drafted according to how he runs. The faster he runs, the higher he's going to go. And Anthony Miller, what's Anthony Miller from Memphis run? I want to see what kind of juice he's got. Simi Cobbs from Indiana, what kind of speed does he have for a big man? He's another big one. Audie Kate, another big receiver. So I want to see these big guys, see how they run, and man, if they run well, they're going to make themselves some dough.
Yeah, and the kid from Central Florida, Traquan Smith, played well in the
bowl.
Yeah, he actually opened my eyes there. We'll see how he goes. What about the two South Dakota State guys, the receiver Jack Winicky and Dallas Goddard, the tight end Goddard? Both those guys. Goddard was your top tight end. He's been your top tight end all year, hasn't he? Top senior tight end.
Yeah, he has been, and he's. I tell you, I hope that he's well, because he tweaked a hamstring at the Senior Bowl after looking real good in practice. And then he rolled an ankle in the playoffs. They were in the semifinals of the playoffs, and he had rolled an ankle there and then tweaked that hamstring, and he didn't have a full pull or anything, but he tweaked it in the Senior Bowl that first day he was there, but then he looked really good in that. So, I think that he's got a good shot if he works out well, because everything else, his intangibles are off the charts. Super smart guy. Good blocker, all that stuff. And so he has a outside shot at going in the first round, like to New Orleans. I don't know if he'd go up as high as Tennessee or not, but, the team, right in that area somewhere. I think Tennessee's picking 25. New Orleans picking 27. So, I mean, there's a couple possibilities or landing spots for him. And, so anyway, and then Jake Winicky, Jake, again, another top quality guy, was the top FCS athlete. He got that award and things like that. A little bit of a strider. He picks up, like he doesn't have that real quick feet and shake off the line, But as he gets down the field, he's really smart at what he does. He runs great routes. And he's a lot like Cooper Kupp from last year. And I'll be interested to see if he runs, because, Cooper didn't burn it up last year, and that's what we were waiting to see. And I want to see what Jake can run.
By the way, it will go to be the top tight end, or is he still battling it out with, say, like a Mark Andrews?
I think he's ahead of Andrews now, but now he'll be battling out with Hurst, I think. The tight end, the junior coming out, that's older guy, played baseball 4 years from South Carolina. And then Gesicki isn't nearly the blocker that those two guys are, but he's going to work out really well. I mean, he's going to knock it off the charts. And then, Chris Herndon is not going to be able to do much because he had that knee from Miami, but he's another guy he's really a good tight end that, you're not hearing about because he's on the shelf right now because of the knee, but he's really a good one too.
Yeah, and Dalton Schultz really came on in the second half of the season when Stanford's quarterback play got better, when they made the quarterback switch. And Jalen Samuels, we've talked a lot about him from NC State. They have him listed as a tight end.
They do. Well, I tell you what, I think what he is an H-back.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if you remember in the Senior Bowl, he did get quite a few carries, on the one-back set.
Yeah.
And he slashed. Then I was really happy to see how he ran. He won't get that much probably in his whole NFL career.
Yeah.
But, what he does, he lines up at the wing, and he can pull and kick out, or he can go down the seam. He can give you a mismatch, different, he can line up in the backfield, go in motion, and then see who he gets matched up with. If it's a linebacker, he's probably going to win that battle. So he's a good matchup guy, and they probably didn't know where to put him, because he's not really a fullback, and he's not really a tight end. He's an H-back is what he is. So that's the try to line him up at tight end.
By the way, another receiver I do would like to see exactly how fast he runs is the kid Jordan Lastly from UCLA. I mean, I've seen him making a lot of nice catches with Josh Rosen this year, and I was real impressed with him on some of the games I've seen him play. But like you've always said with these receivers, it's all about how fast they are, and we'll find out how fast he's going to be. Does he somebody that intrigues you at all?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, he started out kind of slow because even Rosen's catch receivers, they had a lot of drops early in the year, and then they came on, and he throws such a nice, easy ball that it shocked me that, and he actually had a couple of really good receivers. Like Darren Andrews was another one, that was a good receiver for him and stuff. But anyway, I'd be really interested to see how he runs also.
Offensive line, we've talked about Brian Allen and Will Hernandez. Any other offensive linemen in general, including the big tackles? The Notre Dame. The guard from Notre Dame, who's going to wind up being potentially Nelson, potentially going to be a top 10 pick. His line mate with McGlinchey is there as well. Who are you most interested in on the offensive line?
Well, again, a couple juniors that came out, and one right down the road from me that I didn't have any idea he would come out, but he's going to be probably the second center drafted, is James Daniels from Iowa. He's 6'4" and about 300.
Okay.
Want to see how he does. Clapp, the center from LSU. We got him, I think, currently rated their fifth center. But he's got pretty good size range. And the thing is, in visiting with offensive line coaches around the league, they like those rangier guys if they can get them, the 6'3s and 6'4s and things like that. Whereas at one time they didn't want a too tall a center, but now they'd like to have a little guy with some more length on him, like they're 6'4. Like that's what Clapp is. He's in that range. And, and a guy like Allen could very well be a better center. And he's probably better than some centers that played in the National Football League in the last 10 years, but he's going to have to go to the right spot. But he's a starting caliber type guy, So, but those couple guys I definitely want to see. And then Isaiah Wynn, he had a big jump after the after the Senior Bowl, then he didn't get to play in the game because he got nicked up. But he's another one that's going to be a guard, really a good football player. May end up, who knows, somebody may work him at center too because he is such a good athlete. And but Colby Gossett, who was in the Senior Bowl, he's from Appalachian State. He played guard there, and he was also a commit to the East-West, but played in the Senior Bowl, and but he really had a good week of practice at the Senior Bowl. Really happy with how he played and had his head on a swivel, and so I'll be interested to see how he works out.
All right, on the defensive line, of course, we know all the big boys that'll be there. You got Chubb. You've got Davenport and a bunch of other top defensive linemen to keep an eye on. But as far as some others way back, I mean, I'd like to see how Anthony Wimbush plays. He had a really nice career, but that was in the MAC. So let's see what he does competing with the big boys out there in the combine. And Taven Bryan's another guy that we've talked a little bit about from Florida. I'd like to see, what he does. Who are you keeping an eye on as far as defensive linemen for the combine?
Well, Tim Settle from Virginia Tech. I want to see that big boy, what he does. Because, he is a big man at 335. And I want to see how he moves around because I think he can help him stuff to be a real solid second round pick. And if he did something crazy like, smoke it like Poe did, he might be able to even go higher. But I want to see Arden Key do something. I want to see if he's, he didn't do anything really this year at LSU. And he was expected to be a big time, pass rushing defensive end. And I don't know if he just took the year off, and decided not to get hurt or what, but he did not have a good year. And I want to see him do something. And all those Ohio State defensive linemen, I want to see what they do, with Hubbard and Lewis and Holmes. And I also want to see, North Carolina State's got their whole front there.
Sure.
I want to see all those guys, how they work street. He's super quick guy and everything. And so, I think that that would be and then Chad Thomas, who was just had a great week at the East-West and then went and had a couple of days of practice at the Senior Bowl, and then he got nicked up or something, didn't finish the week. But here's a guy that, hey, he looks like an NFL defensive end, let me tell you.
No, nobody's going to touch Bradley Chubb as the top defensive end in this draft, right?
No, nobody.
And he's somebody that could end up, he's not going to Cleveland, but he could pretty much, and he's not going to the Giants either. But the Colts, he could very well go to the Colts. That's a destination that makes a lot of sense.
Well, they went to the 4-3 now from the 3-4, so it's almost marriage. You know what I mean? He's going to be that right defensive end, and that's his spot. Now all he can do is screw it up. And I think if that happens, we'll see because I think the Giants, they may take Minkah Fitzpatrick at 2. You know what I mean? They'd love to have Barkley. I know Dave Gettleman, and I didn't talk to Dave about this, but I know that he would love to have Barkley, but I think Barkley's going to be gone. And I think that, but if he's not, I think that, then Minkah Fitzpatrick would be in play at 3 if, say, for instance, Barkley goes at 2. And, if they decide on, maybe they think Mayfield at 1, hey, who knows, whatever Cleveland does, they got another quarterback. What they could do is they could end up getting Barkley and Minkah, maybe,
It would be kind of funny, though, if Cleveland passes on even though Barkley, we all love Barkley, it just would be kind of funny if they pass on the quarterback first and just make their fans sweat for a few more picks. Like, no, don't pass on another quarterback at 4. Don't you dare. But anyway, it's they'd be just happy with Barkley. I think they know. I think everybody knows how good Barkley is. So. He's no longer a hidden story. All right. As far as the linebackers, I've mentioned before, old school linebacker like Leighton Vander Esch. I'm real excited to see how he matches up. But Edmonds is somebody that has really improved his stock an awful lot this year. He's a top 10 pick, right?
Yeah, absolutely. He can play inside, he can play outside, he can really run, and he plays the pass really well. So yeah, he's the guy. And then like the Van Der Esch, he I added him in our sheet late, but I only got to look at one tape on him. Unfortunately, I guess I looked at his worst tape of the year, and because our other scouts I had looked at him said, "Oh, hey Dan, he's going to be a late one, second round guy." You know what I mean? I said, "Well, I better go back and look at tape because the one I looked at, I had him down, about 25 or something." So, and that happened because
Sure.
An NFL secondary coach called me and said, "Hey, what about this Blandy guy?" I said, "Well, did you just look at the Louisville tape?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, don't look at that tape. He's terrible." I said, "Go look at another one." And so that's why you look at, four tapes or 5 tapes. And then the other thing is you want to look at them early, middle, and late, because the guy either gets better or he gets worse a lot of times. And, you get caught. But yeah, the Van Der Esch kid, I don't know if he's Chad Greenway, but hey, you never know.
That's that's why it's going to be a big week for him to see how athletic he is and all of that. Because he seems like a real instinctive lunch pail, again, old school linebacker that will be a fan favorite right away. But, the combine's going to be huge for a kid like that. So
yeah, absolutely. There's no question about it. And hey, like I said, there's half those 93 that came out are like mysteries. And, until you get their verified height, weight, and speed, you don't. I mean, they can play great. And believe me, hey, I've loved a lot of guys that are really good football players, and they end up being free agents or late round guys instead of earlier, just because they don't have measurables.
That's right. Yep. And then, by the way, speaking of that, I forgot to ask you about Baker Mayfield's hands, because I saw that his hands were under 10 inches. Is it? Was that how they measure it? How do they measure the hands? Okay.
Yeah, you're right. They measure the hand. You go from your pinky. What you do is actually, if you had a ruler, say a 12-inch ruler, you stick that down on a table, then you stick your pinky at one end of, if you want to, or just tell you what, stick your thumb, at the start of it, and then stretch your hand as far as it'll go. Then you push down the top of your hand, with your other hand. I mean, we do that for the guys. They don't have to do it. But then you get the span of their hand, and his hand is fine. It just has to be, over 9. Yeah.
So 9 was the number. Okay. I wasn't sure if it was 10 or 9, but it was 9. Okay.
All right. Well, no, if you're 10, they love it.
Yeah.
10-inch hand, they love it. But his was 9.5. So, all the people that loved him just kind of breathed a sigh of relief, including Sean Payton, because he kept saying, "Oh, I don't take anybody under 9," because Bill Parcells told me that you got to have at least a 9-inch hand. So,
all right.
So Baker made the
cut. Made the cut. All right. Defensive backfield, and again, you mentioned Minka, so he's the big one out there. And I tell you, one of the DBs I'm very interested in, I like this kid, is Justin Reed from Stanford. I'd like to see exactly how he does. He looks really good to me when I see him out on the field. Who are you, besides the Minka Fitzpatricks and so forth? Any sleeper DBs that you want to be keeping an eye on?
Well, I'd like to see how Godwin and Gupe from Northwestern works out. I like Trey Flowers from Oklahoma State. Want to see how he does out there, and then, the other safeties, Terrell Edmonds, I want to see how he does. That's Tremaine's brother, and he's a really good safety. He's a big guy. Want to see, how he works out and everything. And Sean Chandler from Temple. I think Sean is there because he's a guy that one of our scouts really likes, and I think he's somebody that I had on our radar all year, and he's there. He's there from Temple, and but he'll be there. But anyway, he's a guy that I would like to see, and and the corners. Hey, I want to see these corners move around, and how they change direction and things, and can they follow the ball in the air with their eyes and everything, and not get lost. And so it just, There's quite a few guys. Darius Leonard, a linebacker for South Carolina State. I really like him. I liked him all year. Had a great Senior Bowl. Made 14 tackles. Want to see how he does. And of course, the linebackers, you want to see how they move. So see if they can cover. And if you haven't seen it, some of them you don't see them cover that much in college film. But you want to see how, because that's going to make a difference if, teams feel like they're a 3-down linebacker or a 2-down linebacker.
Sure.
So, you want to see how they cover and stuff like that. But yeah, there's a lot of those defensive backs that I'll be interested to see how they run. Isaiah Oliver, for instance, I think his stock, Josh Jackson from Iowa, if he cranks a 4.45, something like that, well, he just went in the middle of the first round, about as simple as that, So,
okay.
Yeah, Mike Hughes from Central Florida, another guy that he came out unexpectedly, but he's a talented guy. So, quite a few guys to keep an eye on.
I remember last year the other corner from Iowa, Desmond King.
Oh,
yeah.
Desmond King.
Remember
right.
how he dropped in the draft, and it was just a big shock how much he dropped, and then he goes out and has an excellent rookie season.
Yeah, starts as a rookie. So
yeah.
Well, I said that. I said I don't care where he goes, but he's gonna start. You know what I mean? And his arms were a little bit too short. But one thing he has is great anticipation, and he's a guy that had great ball instincts and things. So, but the reports I'm getting though, Jackson's going to run a little better. He should be running he's a Texas kid that's about. Oh, he's like almost 6'2", and about 192 pounds, and kind of a little more leg to him, and I guess he can pick him up and lay him down. So,
well, that's a terrific size. If he does run fast, who knows? Maybe even higher than 15. Let's go to the pre-combine top 32 that's on the board right now. No surprise that Barkley is your top-rated player. He's been your top-rated player all year. Geis is the only other running back in your top 32, though. But that doesn't mean that after that, there's not going to be a whole bunch of other, as usual, quality running backs to look after. But Geis is the only other running back in your top 32.
Yeah, and one reason is that there are so many really good backs that they're going to get clumped up in that second round, and then people are going to sort them out a little bit. But a lot of really good ones, and we talked about Chubb and Michelle and those guys. So there's a lot of them. And Penny, I don't want to forget him. Ronald Jones. Some people have Ronald Jones. They like him in the first round. I tell you what, I don't see him there, but I see him as really a solid second. So there's a second and third round are just going to be hammered with running back.
You've got 6 quarterbacks right now in the top 32, and I'm not sure anybody but you, which just shows you how special you are, Dan, would have Josh Allen as your 6th rated quarterback out of those 6. And we've talked all about why for the past really 4 or 5 months. And so, but this is pretty much, being 31st ranked player in your pre-top 35, pre-combine top 35. Remember we were talking about the Brett Favre comparisons. That Favre is like the only college quarterback that we've seen in many years actually rose his completion percentage from college to the pros. But he was an early second round pick. And he also went to a staff with Gruden and Holmgren et al. On the Packers sidelines. So that'll boost up your coaching and make you a special player. So, but that's the difference. It doesn't mean Allen's not going to be a good player, but it's just when you're evaluating the players, you have to go by what you see. And he's your 6th rated quarterback right now.
Yeah, and the thing is, you have to remember, Favre was sitting on the Atlanta Falcons bench, when
That's
he
right.
was there.
Yep.
Until, he got traded for, and I talked to Ron Wolf about it, because Ron was telling me that, this was when I was at National Scouting then, and I saw Ron at the meetings, and, he said, I really like Brett Favre. And I think he was the Jets then, actually. and then
Yeah.
I think
Yep.
Favre got taken by Atlanta
Just before the
one pick
Jets.
ahead of the quarterback that was at Louisville.
Browning Nagel.
That's it, Browning Nagel. And and here I tell you, here's an interesting story too. The general manager at that time, who has passed away, that you probably remember who it was.
Oh, yeah. I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
But anyway, he came out in the New York newspaper and said, well, National had put a first round grade on this guy. And I called my boss. I said, hey, did somebody change my grade? Because Browning Nagel, I gave him like a 5th round grade. You know what I mean? And just, to appeal to the New York media. And he's really a good guy. But anyway, he changed my grade. It was in the USA Today and everything that, I had the grades. And I go, hey, Duke, did you change my grade? He said, nope. So, but no, Browning Nagel was, he's in my area there at Louisville, and I had him, as I recall, I gave him like a 5.2 or something like that. Was just like I said, a 5th round grade or something like that. Then.
Bradway?
No, Bradway was, it was,
Bradway must have been after him then, right? Was he?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God, what was his name? He's an old. I mean, he's very well known. If I say his name, you'd remember in a minute.
Sure. I remember I remember the whole Browning Nagel thing. I remember Browning Nagel had like his best game was actually the first game he ever played. It was one of those situations where he went out, he threw for like 300 yards against the Falcons, like in his first game. And of course, you do that in New York, you're thinking you've got yourself a superstar. And then that was it. He never did anything else the rest of his career. That's the life of a Jet fan. So
yeah, well, he. I tell you, the other thing is he threw a very heavy ball.
Yeah,
sure. Browning Nagel, believe me, he could throw it right through a barn door.
Yeah,
but that's kind of like we're talking about
with
this
Josh
guy,
Allen.
my 31st rated player in Allen.
Yeah.
I mean, and but hey, that's another story, I guess.
Well, you've got also again, but Mayfield is also not only your top quarterback, but your second overall player on the board, followed by Rosen, and Rosen's right there. You've got a gap from Rosen to Darnold at 3 to 9, but Rosen's right there. And do you think that there are going to be some GMs that are going to be scared away by his injury history the last couple of years?
Yes, I do. I think that when they when they go to the combine, and they'll be checking to see if there's any brain matter coming out of his ears. I'll guarantee you. And he again, here's a guy, when you're looking at him on film, his feet are always under him. Fundamentally, he's very good. He's a very smart guy. He's accurate. He made good decisions. I mean, all the stuff that you look for, the guy does. So, but the injury thing is, like I said, there's no clean sweeps here. You can, shoot a gun in most of those guys, but Mayfield, the only thing you can say about him is he's 6 foot tall. And if he's Drew Brees, then I'll take all those I can get.
Oh yeah. Your top rated defensive back is Minkah Fitzpatrick. He's your 4th rated player overall. You've got 3 defensive backs in your top 11 right now. Jackson, by the way, is 18th, but you've got James and Ward in the top 11. So we know about Fitzpatrick. What are you looking at with Ward and James?
Well, see, Ward, again, in our opinion, he's the second best corner out there. We got Fitzpatrick actually rated as safety.
Okay.
But he can be the top safety, he can be the top corner. Okay. So we put him at both. We put him at S/CB, and he can play all over that secondary. And then Ward, again, another one of those Ohio State guys that can really cover, good ball skills, good speed, good short area quickness. And then James, we're one of the few, I think, that have had him in the top 15 all year. He is, a big safety that, he started out kind of crappy this year and this and that. And then I had a good game, I think, in the Alabama game. And then, he kind of went downhill a little bit, or just kind of leveled out. I mean, didn't go downhill for an average player, but for a big time, guy, you like to see more out of him. And then he finished up real strong the last part of the year. And then, of course, last year he had a real good year, and he's coming off an injury, and things like that. But in fact, I'm not so sure teams are going to use him as that big nickel safety or put him inside at linebacker when, because your base coverages anymore. You see there's 3 wideouts are in base offenses anymore. So, you need that guy that can play safety, play linebacker things, and James is big enough to do that. Plus he can blitz and cover and everything. And then Jackson, we got him projected to go to Green Bay at 14, even though he's their 18th rated player. We think that he's got a good shot at going to Green Bay at 14. And
they drafted King last year too, right? Green Bay.
King.
Me? They drafted that King, that big
kid
corner last year.
Yeah, second round. Yes,
that'd be some duo.
And, yeah, they need some secondary help there.
Oh yeah.
But anyway,
that'd be something. Those two guys wind up starting. They're both, because King's like 6'2" as well, isn't he?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep,
wow.
He is.
By the way, I noticed that McFadden and Everett both dropped for you from a few months back. Any particular reason why?
Yeah, McFadden just his consistency bothers a little bit, but and the thing is that he didn't really make a move. The whole Florida State thing.
Yeah.
I think he might have got caught up in that they backslid after that first game, and after Alabama beat them, then they lose their quarterback, and I just think it took the air out of their whole team. And but nevertheless, McFadden didn't step up to the plate consistently, and so he faded out of there a little bit. But I'm pretty confident that, hey, if he ended up burning it up at the combine,
sure,
and the stuff, it wouldn't surprise me if he gets in the bottom of the first round. But I think he's probably going to be a second rounder.
Defensive line, of course, you got Chubb there as your 5th overall player, top defensive lineman. There are a lot of people who seem to think Davenport could go in the top 10. You got him as your 19th rated player, 4th, actually 5th rated defensive lineman. Are they going? Do you think their analysis or their prediction that Davenport could go in the top 10 is just more of the fact that he's a guy, you look at him and you see his athleticism for a big guy, and NFL is always looking for guys who could sack the quarterback. Are they going a little bit crazy for him? Or is there anything that could change your mind and move him up depending on what you see at the combine?
Well, you know what? No, because I want to see it in gear, and he got handled at the Senior Bowl. On some of those offensive tackles, they get their hands on him, and he's kind of a one-move guy. And then when he was at Texas San Antonio, see, he stood up. He didn't put his hand in the dirt, and he'd come off the ball slower at the Senior Bowl with his hand down. But now when they moved him inside, for instance, at defensive tackle, he gets his hands up and he can bat balls down and things like that. We have him going there. Now, in my mock draft that will be coming out, like I said, later today, we got him going to Dallas at 19. So it kind of fits. He's a 19th guy in going into Dallas. So, but if he goes earlier, like I said, and here's the other thing, he's not overly strong, and he doesn't have a variety of moves. You know what I mean? To get to the quarterback, he's just kind of a, one-trick pony right now.
Yep.
And so he's got a lot to learn.
Offensive line, we talked about Nelson. He's your top offensive lineman. He is 6th rated on your board. So we know all about him. We know he's probably going to go in the top 10, which by the way, still we have to keep we do have to keep, and I'll do some research myself. I haven't done it yet. It is a little bit rare to see guards go in the top 10, isn't it?
Oh yeah, very rare. In fact, it was a disaster the last time 2 of them did. Remember when Cooper and Warmack went up there?
Oh yeah.
Cooper, he's still bouncing around, and Dallas, they hope they can, salvage something and make him a guard in there. But but I think this guy's a little bit different than those guys, and I mean, he's got some holes in him. I mean, he's not a perfect player, but I'll tell you one thing, boy, he manhandles people. He'll be a Pro Bowl guy his rookie year. So, I mean, just matter, where you want to take him. And I mean, like I said, the Jet fans they'd boo a Pro Bowl guy at 6 picks if he's not a quarterback. So.
I remember because the guard that you have rated the best that I recall. And the reason I recall is because I know how good he was, and we talked about it, and he's turned out to be a great guard. Is David DeCastro?
Right.
Who's better? Who would you rate better coming into the pros, into the draft, DeCastro or Nelson?
Well, Nelson's bigger. I mean, a little thicker. He's like 332 or pounds or so. I kind of like DeCastro better, but Nelson has the chance to overtake him if he comes in and plays like did DeCastro end up getting that knee? I think his second year in the league and stuff, and then, but and then since then he's been an annual All Pro and Pro Bowl guy. So, but I think DeCastro, right now. But Nelson could be nipping at his heels in a few years.
At linebacker, how close is it between Edmonds, your 8th rated player overall, top linebacker, and Roquan Smith, your 2nd ranked linebacker and 10th overall? We've talked a lot about Roquan Smith going through the championship game. Absolutely love this kid. How close is it between those two guys?
Well, Edmonds is just a bigger guy. And they're similar in regards to speed and things. And hey, physics tell you to take Edmonds, because he's bigger and faster. And
okay.
He's got longer arms, and he's going to hold up better theoretically. I mean, Smith's only 219 pounds.
That's
he's
true.
not
Yeah.
big.
Yeah.
But he can cover, and he can do things nowadays. What you're looking for, you see all those. Of course, they went in the 2nd round, but the Falcons took all those undersized linebackers and things, and have had some success as long as people don't line up in too tights and run right at them. But Smith, I think he's probably he's going to be rated up there a little higher, but he may end up falling simply because depends on how all these quarterbacks go. But like he's our 10th guy, but we got him actually going at 20 to Detroit, and I don't know if they'll take back-to-back first-round linebackers or not, but he would be a real value for them. And you put him at the weak side, and he'd be a value, there. But
they hit a home run with Jared Davis last year.
Yeah, right. That's what I mean. They had Jared Davis in the middle, and you put this guy, so he's got a lot of explosiveness to him that. Edmonds shows, but he's just big. Edmonds is just a bigger guy,
Edmonds is just going to be the clear better linebacker at the combine. That's just not even going to be close, right? For a combine matchup.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Receiver Ridley and Kirk are the only 2 receivers in your top 32. Kirk could also double as a return man. Ridley, he's your 14th overall player. So. We've seen other receivers over the last several years go higher than 14. How does Ridley rate compared to some of the other big receivers we've seen, and what kind of a ceiling does he have? What are you looking at him next week?
Well, that was tough on him. You almost had to grade the throws that were close enough for him to catch, because Jalen Hurts, man, I tell you what, he was all over the place throwing the ball. When there's a guy, what a talent, with his legs and things like that. But man alive, then in the national championship game, you bring Tua in there, and he was throwing lasers, and really gave a little show what he could do. So I mean, and then he did that actually early in his career too, as a freshman. He broke out. So, but I think Ridley, and then you don't know, but there's some really big, good-sized receivers in this draft, and if they happen to really run well, they may squeeze into the bottom of the first round too, like Sutton, from SMU. But see, he was a former safety, and he's really still learning how to play receiver. But anyway, then Kirk is just, he's smoke. He's gonna flat out just burn it up. If he doesn't run, in the low 4.3s, then he had a bad day. And, there's a lot of people that would like, God only makes so many fast people, and he's one of them. And as a return guy and as a wide receiver, he can really get it done. So, he may go higher than, see, we got him going, I tell you what, I got him, I think, going to Tennessee, even though they took another first-round receiver last year, but they need some real speed on that outside. They got to, get some more people to help there too. So they're losing like Decker and, some other guys probably through free agency. So it wouldn't hurt to have another young receiver there at Tennessee. So right now we got him at 25 going to Tennessee.
Well, Kirk is going to try to get some money the way Ross got paid last year. He was just overdrafted because of the combine. That's all. Now, look, we don't know what kind of a player he's going to turn out to be because he wasn't healthy. But still, we kind of knew even before the draft that he wasn't healthy. So, but you take a chance, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. But hey, he's got some time. You got to give him a break.
Like Lou Holtz told me, if a guy had no arms but he could really run fast, he'd still have to walk somebody out to cover him. You know what I mean? So.
That's right. And then Goddard, as we mentioned before, is the only tight end in your top 32. He's your 32nd ranked player. So any chance, once again, that Goddard does not end up as your top-rated tight end?
Well, I think it's probably going to be him or Hurst from some South Carolina. If Hurst works out great, and but I tell you what, right now Goddard he's a lot younger. He's 4 or 5 years younger than Hurst. Yeah. So I don't know, who's going to take Hurst up there. They could take him a little bit later and probably get the same thing. And then, Gesicki isn't even in the same stratosphere as a blocker, as Goddard. And then Andrews, I think he thinks he's a wide receiver and not a blocker, so. And then, of course, we won't know about Herndon because he's wounded right now. But then Fumagalli is a pretty good blocker, pretty good receiver, but he's not in the same class as Goddard. So I think Goddard's clearly the top tight end.
All right, Dan. So we mentioned that you've got your mock draft, possibly your first one, possibly going to be available on the website later today. And the mock draft contest is also something that you're starting to promote again. So that's for all the rounds.
Yeah, to win the $500, you got to do all 7 rounds. And but a lot of people, you can go on there and you put your comments, that you got about this guy, and if you like, because I tell you what, the one thing, I go through them every so often, just take a peek at what some of the people are doing, and they really do a nice job, and they're very thoughtful in putting together their mock draft, and not a bunch of jerks. You know what I mean? It's something like that. They're very thoughtful in what, and there's reasons why they do what they do, and you can't argue that if you put you put some stock and stake behind what you're doing,
Sure.
And so they're. I think last year we had 750 or 800 people do the mock draft challenge last year, and I was really pleased. They as a group, I thought they were really good.
All right, so we'll keep an eye on that. And again, the newsletter's out. And by the way, the estimated date for when the draft guide will be available.
Well, we were talking about that today. I was talking with our CEO, and she told me she'd like to get it, to the. That's my wife, by the way. She'd like to get it to the printer in the late, because they kick it out in about 2 days. So get out in late March, or at the worst, the 2nd of April, and so somewhere in that window there, depends on, the thing is, I drag it out a little bit sometimes because I want to try to get as much workout stuff in there as we can.
Sure.
Now if a guy's not going to work out till middle of April, obviously forget it.
Yep.
But we try to get as much verified information. If, a guy's injured or they can't run they can't run at the combine, they can't run, something happens. Well, hey, if that happens, then we'll just leave them out, leave that verified stuff out on them, but try to get as much verified stuff. And then you have to remember now free agency goes through a certain point where people are still signing guys.
That's right.
You know, they're signing. So, you know, you want to try to get it as close as you can, but not too long. I know a lot of fans like to spend 3 weeks or so before the draft and study it and things. And, you know, so that's the window we're looking at. Probably, you know, mailing it out, I guess, April 3rd, 2nd or 3rd, somewhere in there.
All right, Dan. Next week, we'll start going through the divisions, the AFC West and the NFC West, and take a look at potential team needs and all that other stuff, including an update on the Combine. So appreciate your time as always, Dan. Get back to work. We'll talk to you next Wednesday.
Thanks a million.
Thank
Bye
you,
now.
Dan. All right, that's Dan Shonka, GM and National Scout at Ourlads. Don't forget, every Wednesday at 2 Eastern right here on the Ourlads Football Radio Network. And the draft guide will be out end of March, beginning of April. That'll give you a good 3 or 4 weeks to get ready for the draft. And don't forget, too, that we've got a whole bunch of other content that's going to be available for you. I mean, Dan's got the mock draft coming out. I'm putting the Colts offseason report out tomorrow. So that'll be the 6th team. I'm going to profile 8, and then we're going to do the rest of the all 32 before the draft. So all that's coming out real soon on the Ourlads Football Network. And for Dan Shonka, I'm Greg DePalma. We'll see you again next Wednesday here on Ourlads Guide to the 2018 NFL Draft.